Hey everyone, this video is about Eldritch Horror, which is an absolute favorite board game of mine. Specifically, this is about the characters of Eldritch Horror. I have every expansion for this game that's come out so far, as of today's date, March 2017. So, the most recent expansion is the Dreamlands expansion, which is really cool. And most, if not all of the expansions have added new characters to the mix, new playable characters. So when I say characters, I use that, like interchangeably with investigators. So, sometimes folks have a chance to read the fluff, which is the same as flavor text, like their theme and plot elements. And it's beautifully written, and it's very Lovecraftian, but still has its own Arkham Horror flavor to it. And when I say Arkham Horror flavor, I mean that Fantasy Flight Games, their take on the Lovecraft world injects a little bit of not just gamification, but sense of adventure, sense of Indiana Jones, sense of film noir into Lovecraft, which was more pure dread, cosmic horror, hopelessness before. Now there's a little bit more sense of adventure thrown in, so it's a nice mix of like horror with adventure, with noir, with all these different things. So I absolutely love Eldritch Horror, but in this video in particular I want to showcase the characters that are available now. And of course later on, as more expansions come out and more content is released, there'll be even more expansion characters who are playable. What I'm not going to do is read the story of what happens to them if they go insane or become mortally wounded, because they each have fluff that corresponds with either of those two fates, because I kind of feel like that's a spoiler. Instead, I just want to read their biographies. Maybe we can have a spoiler video later if people want, but I just kind of want to tell about the characters, because I think they're all really interesting, and it's fun to play as one of the characters and feel like you are that character, experiencing those conditions happen to you, that journey happened to you, uncovering mysteries as that character, dealing with the trauma as that character. So I think that's what makes it really cool. So we have Amanda Sharp. Let's see if we get it even there. Amanda Sharp, the student. And I won't read out all their stats or special abilities, but when I show them, you can have a quick glimpse of their stats and special abilities. And you can kind of have a sense of what the health and sanity and the different factors are. If you play Eldritch Horror, then all those things make sense to you. If not, no problem. You'll learn what they mean. Sorry, my phone made a noise. I'll turn it on silent so that it doesn't do that anymore. There we go. Amanda Sharp, the student. So I'm just reading her fluff. She has a flavor text quote on the front. The truth of reason tempers even the wildest delusions. I will not fall prey to such madness. She starts in Istanbul, Turkey. I also won't read their starting items typically, but I'll read their quote on the front and their biography on the back. Ever since she laid eyes upon that painting, Amanda Sharp has been hearing voices in her head and seeing emerald cities deep beneath the ocean in her dreams. Once a student at Arkham's Miskatonic University, Amanda Sharp opted to take some time away from school, hoping that the strange voices and visions would subside. Unfortunately, they have been getting worse, not better. and hardly a day goes by that she does not suffer from her unusual visions. Something terrible is coming. She is sure of it. The sea wakes. So that's Amanda Sharp. And again, for all of these, not reading about their health, their sanity, their stats, their special ability, starting weapons, or even, their little story of what happens if they go insane or become mortally wounded or die. That is for you to discover as you play, or another video. But that just goes to show you that just on this little thin piece of cardboard, just how much content and creativity and game balancing Fantasy Flight Games put into this. And I think that's really something. Up next we have Jenny Barnes, the Dilettante. I hope I'm saying that word right. I think I know what it means. But Jenny Barnes, Dilettante. We know she's rich from other Eldritch Arkham games. My sister was taken. I will pay any amount to save her. I'll show the front while I read the back. I think that's an elegant way of doing it. Born to wealth and privilege, Jenny has spent most of her young life in the most fashionable nightclubs around the world. But her life of decadence came to an abrupt halt when she received an ominous letter from her sister Isabel. In the letter, Isabel reported being followed by mysterious men wearing hoods and robes. When Jenny investigated, she learned that her sister had been kidnapped to an island in the Caribbean. Jenny will use her wealth and international connections to find Isabel and punish the men who took her. Lovecraftian world, there's always a lot of evil cults running around, and you gotta watch out for them. They are dangerous. We have Wilson Richards, called the Handyman, but he looks like a hunter. He says, "It's nothing a good plan and some hard work can't fix." We have his stats. He starts in Arkham, United States. Wilson's a practical man. He goes with his work. When it's gone, he moves on. Wilson finds that offering an honest deal gets him treated honestly. But since he took a job rebuilding a church in Arkham, he's had a hard time being honest with himself. People are being torn from their homes at night. Things that used to hide in the deepest pits of the earth have crawled to the surface. He cannot unsee all the things he's seen, but he can get to work on fixing the problem. Fixing double meaning. He's a handyman, but he also wants to solve the problem of what's going on around here. Around the whole world, really. We have Jacqueline Fine, the psychic. She says, "The visions are a warning. The future can be rewritten." Here we go. And she starts in the American Heartland, Space 5. At first, Jacqueline's dreams of fire and destruction seemed like a curse. Monsters run rampant through city streets, and some greater darkness loomed on the horizon. However, she's recently learned to control her visions and observe events in detail. Yesterday, she traveled from Boston to Minneapolis to explore an abandoned warehouse she'd seen in her dreams. Inside, she found evidence of a terrible cult that had practiced unspeakable rituals there. Jacqueline hopes to use what she's learned to prevent the terrible future that haunts her sleep. A lot of reasons for these folks to come together and try to hold back the darkness that approaches. It's pretty fun. Now we have Patrice Hathaway, the violinist. She says, "When I play the violin, the music echoes in other worlds." She starts in Sydney, Australia. There we go. Hailed as a musical prodigy from her youth, Patrice has performed for royalty and society's brightest minds all around the world. For years, she thought that her consciousness simply drifted as she played, but she's come to believe that an intelligence exists behind her visions. Somehow, the notes form a bridge between her own mind and another. The more she grasps what her music exposes her to, the more afraid she becomes. After last night's concert in Sydney, she's finally decided to take actions. Now we have Tony Morgan, the bounty hunter, and I'm reading about him right now in the Lord of Nightmare trilogy, Arkham Horror novels by Fantasy Flight Games. Really enjoying his character. He says, "When I find the beast, I'll trap it or put it down for good." He starts in Bogota, Colombia. Space 7. Tony's tracked down low-life scum in every corner of the world, but nothing was quite as bad as Innsmouth. Some creep in Boston skipped bail and tried to hide with family in a small fishing village. It turned out family meant vicious fish-like monstrosities that left Tony bloody and half-drowned. Ever since he's found a new kind of dirtbag to hunt. Ordinary mobsters or otherworldly monster, Tony will take it down and find someone willing to pay him for it. Now he's got a lead in Bogota. Easy money. I wonder if that little narrative takes place before or after the novel, but I don't know that it has to matter. We have Hank Sampson, the farmhand. Folks are in trouble. I don't gotta be a genius to help out. Okay, we're laying on the simple country guy a little thick with this character, but that's alright. He starts in Dallas, United States, Space 6. Since he was a kid, Hank has crossed the country, working on farms and ranches. In Texas, he saw a giant bird-like creature tear cattle to pieces. Everyone else ran, but Hank cracked the creature's skull open with his maul. Thinking nothing of it, he included the story in a letter to his father. Now his paw is missing, and folks in Dallas say someone's looking for Hank. If they thought they were going to scare him, they were wrong. Hank Sampson isn't afraid of anything, and he aims to find his paw. I knew they had biographies, but I didn't realize that they often had such kind of personal biographies. Up next is Tommy Muldoon, the rookie cap. He says, "I took an oath to enforce the law. That's what I'm doing." He starts in the Alaskan coast, Space 1. Many members of the Muldoon family is part of the Boston police force in some way or another. Not long ago, the youngest brother, Tommy, got his badge, armed with an eye for detail, fierce courage, and his trusty rifle, Becky. Young Muldoon is dedicated to law enforcement. Now he finds himself in Anchorage at the request of his cousins, the local sheriff. Something has been killing people, and off the record, his cousin says it's a Wendigo. Tommy's not sure he believes in any of that, but catching killers is in his blood. He might be shocked to find out what he learns. Monterey Jack, the archaeologist. He says, "To find a treasure like that, I'll risk a few poison darts." Can't help but think of Indiana Jones' Littles. Sorry, my screen locked up there for a second. He starts in the pyramids. Makes sense. Bullwhip asset. Treasure map. Just noting that. Young Jack traveled the world with his father's archaeological expeditions. He acquired the nickname Monterey after a bout of quinine-induced jaundice turned his skin yellow. Once grown, Jack became an accomplished archaeologist in his own right. Now he must explore his own past. His father was found murdered, with an arcane sigil carved into the old man's forehead. Here in Cairo, he has seen men wearing this sigil on pendants around their neck. It's time for Jack to start digging. Double meaning for digging. It's fun. I like puns, I don't know. There's a charm to them. Excuse me. Silas Marsh, the sailor. He says, "Leave your fears on the docks, lads. I'll not carry that cargo. The wind is up. Full sail." Starts in Sydney, Australia as well. Even as a child in Innsmouth, Silas had a special connection to the sea. He's an able and well-reasoned man on land, but on the ocean he possesses a singular strength and wit. It's earned him a sterling reputation in every port across the globe, particularly in Sydney, where Silas set ashore last night. But in the morning, the smell of the briny air carries dread as well as joy. There's something in his past, something in Innsmouth, that he knows will someday catch up to him. If you haven't read or listened to the dramatized radio play of The Shadow over Innsmouth, you definitely should. Up next we have Jim Culver, the musician. He was in my party in Elder Sign. Another musician, not a violin player, but in this case it looks like a trumpet player. He says, "No, not quite at all. Dead folks get downright rambunctious when I play my horn." Oh, no, not quiet at all. He starts in Deep South, Space 6. So I guess one imagines, Florida, Georgia, New Orleans, something like that. Old Jim Culver's music gives sweet comfort to the soul, and it doesn't matter if that soul belongs to the living or the dead. Folks in their graves, they love their little chats with Jim. It used to bother him, but now he's happy for the company. Lately, some departed souls in San Antonio have been all riled up about something. They're downright terrified, and anything that scares the dead deserves old Jim's undivided attention. Where are we here in timing, by the way? Oops. I can't tell, but that's alright. Okay. Up next we have Akachi Anyeli. Hopefully I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I'm probably not. But not to get too much into politics and social justice, but it is nice that she is a woman of color, and hopefully there will be more, folks like that in the future. I know Lovecraft, at least for most of his life, was a racist, but, hopefully he learned a lot towards the end. I hope, and we all can learn a lot. But she's got a cool biography. She's a shaman. She says, "I will journey to the lands beyond. I do not fear them." Good stats. As a young girl in Nigeria, Akachi stayed apart from other children, preferring the company of imaginary friends. Her elders feared madness, but the village Dibia believed that she had been chosen by the gods. The wise old man taught her how to travel between worlds and how to marshal spirits. Now she has become a wise leader herself, traveling across Africa and teaching others to protect themselves. She's recently moved to Cape Town, and from here she will track down the dark forces that threaten humanity. A good narrative for her. Up next we have a favorite, Norman Withers, the astronomer. He says, "Let them call me a crackpot. Something is happening to the stars, and I am not imagining it." He starts in Arkham, United States. The scientific community ridiculed Norman for his claim that 6 stars disappeared from the sky. After exhausting every plausible astronomical explanation for answers, he took a position at Miskatonic University and began exploring more improbable possibilities in the restricted section of their library. While reading an ancient text of dark prophecies, Norman found an exact description of the phenomenon he'd observed. If the tome is to be believed, a terrible incursion into our world is imminent. Up next we have a favorite I remember from first edition of Mansions of Madness, Michael McGlenn, the gangster. He says, "Don't care if it's a god. If it crosses me, it's gonna regret it." He starts in London, United Kingdom. When the Albanian gang needs to send a message, they send the big man, Michael McGlenn. Not long ago, his friend, Fast Louis Farrell, was attacked by a bunch of inhuman things with ugly fish-like faces. They sliced him up and dragged him underwater. McGlenn took it personally. The word has spread. McGlenn has loaded up his Thompson, and everyone else had best get out of his way. His first stop is London, where he intends to find out what these creatures are called, and where he has to go to kill every last one of them. Now they're called Deep Ones, and he probably should go to Innsmouth. But they're all over. Up next we got Wendy Adams, the urchin. She says, "The little things are important. Grown-ups don't see that." She's a young person. As far as the state was concerned, Wendy had to be placed in an orphanage. Her father was gone, her mother was insane, but Wendy knew that her mother drew sigils and chanted to hide from the nightmares that took Wendy's father. So long as she was in an orphanage, Wendy knew she was vulnerable. The only way to find her father and keep herself safe was to escape. She has one photo of her father taken in a factory where the signs are in Russian. On the back is the message, "Soon the red tide rises. Stay safe, my little girl." She starts in Eastern Russia, Space 16, probably looking for her father. Up next we have Agnes Baker, the waitress. She says, "I remember another life, one of sorcery and conquest. Once Agnes lives quietly, taking orders and serving up food at a diner in Arkham. But one night she fell from a ladder, striking her head. After that she could recall a past life as a sorceress in the ancient world of Hyperborea. Her mind flooded with memories of arcane lore. Amazed by this new magical knowledge, Agnes has traveled to London to learn more about Hyperborea. But is she driven by her own curiosity, or compelled by the will of her former self? Oops. We have Sister Mary, the nun. Sister Mary says, "The Lord watches over my path. I am armored in faith." She starts in South Africa, Space 15. Sister Mary speaks very little of her life before taking her vows. Like so many other young girls, she came from a small town and dreamed of something greater than a small life. The Lord provided. Through his paths, she has become a lion of compassion and virtue. She has a natural humility, and people are often surprised how driven she is to serve God's will. The church has sent her to South Africa to investigate a possibly demonic presence. Mary plans to approach the question, as she always does, with a clear mind and unshakable faith. Up next we have Rex Murphy, the reporter. He says, "My sources tell me that the world is ending. Just my luck." And when disaster strikes, Rex Murphy is usually on hand, suffering the consequences. After spending a day with Rex, even the most hardened skeptic will conceive that the man is cursed. To survive, Rex has developed an inquisitive mind, trying to keep one step ahead of the next disaster. His terrible fortune has been more than once exposed him to the monstrous forces that threaten to end the world. He hopes he can get some writing done in Alaska, far away from anything that might go wrong. He starts in Space 1, Juneau, Alaska. I know about Juneau, Alaska. Next we have Harvey Walters, the professor. He says, "I have experience dealing with these sorts of horrors." He starts in Arkham, United States. In the time since Harvey earned his master's degree in journalism from Miskatonic University, a lot has happened to him. His journalistic career took him into the roles of mystic and psychic investigator, which in turn led him to earn a doctorate in history and archaeology. There is perhaps no sane man alive who knows more about the occult than Harvey. Now, his ongoing struggle against the darkness has brought him back to his alma mater here in Arkham. Clear I don't have a master's degree because I didn't say that word right. Leo Anderson, the expedition leader. He says, "Keep moving. You can die on your own time." A lot of hardened, tough people, but that makes sense that there would be. To stay sane, you have to harden your heart a little bit sometimes. Leo Anderson has spent his whole life getting into the deadliest and most obscure corners of the globe. Along the way, he's lost good people. Fever takes some, others are claimed by wild beasts. After a recent disastrous venture in the Yucatan, Leo barely made it back to Buenos Aires alive. He's sick of burying the people who's trusted him. But the job's not done yet. The world is in danger, and crying in his drink won't fix that. He's picked up a little hired help here, and in the morning, he'll head back out into the world. He starts in Buenos Aires. Argentina, gosh, that's so naive of me. I really thought it was Brazil. That's embarrassing. Up next we have Ursula Downs, the explorer. Kind of similar to an exposition leader, but I guess it's different to be an explorer. And we also have two musicians. It is kind of like, shouldn't we be mixing up roles a little more? There's certainly more occupations or enthusiast things to do, but that's all right. She says, discovery isn't easy, but it's the only worthwhile path. Starts in the heart of Africa. As a young girl, Ursula constantly climbed trees, scaled rock walls, and explored caves. When it came to her studies, she excelled in history and the sciences. After getting a degree in archaeology in Boston, she began traveling the world, searching for forgotten civilizations. She's an expert in both ancient and contemporary language and is capable of enduring the harsh environments she encounters during her explorations. Recently, Ursula has traveled to Africa to oversee the excavation of a lost city's ruins. Very interesting. And with the expansions, there's so much to explore in the archaeological digs and just the different side quest ones, like the Mystic expansion, where you have Stonehenge deck kind of thing. Up next is Mark Harrigan, the soldier. He says, I'm walking out that door, and I'm taking this book. Anyone who wants to stop me is welcome to try. So he's on a mission to find out what's going on too. Starts in Northern Europe, Space 14. During the war, Mark witnessed horrors he could not explain, and he wrote of what he saw in letters to his beloved wife, Sophie. When Mark returned home, he discovered that Sophie was no longer human. One of the beasts he had seen overseas had taken over her body, killing her in the process. Afterward, Mark's thirst for vengeance led him to Helsinki, where some of these creatures has posed as German soldiers during the Great War. Always knew German soldiers were sometimes monsters. Not Nazis in this case yet, because that's World War I we're talking about here, but Nazis of World War II, obviously. But, Hitler was a veteran of the First World War. Maybe he was a monster. Well, he was really, wasn't he? Up next is George Barnaby, the lawyer. I believe in a higher law. I believe in true justice. He's in it for the right reasons. As a lawyer, George had a long career holding those who deal in human suffering accountable to the law. Recently, George retired and bought a boat to travel the world with his beloved wife Maria. But everything changed one morning in Bombay. George left the boat to get breakfast. On his way back, he passed Westerners dressed in black suits, all wearing silver rings that bore the image of a skull. Inside the boat, he found Maria's body surrounded by occult symbols. His sole reason for living now is the pursuit of justice for Maria. Oops, sorry about that. It's the darn cults, the evil cults worshipping the great old one or outer god that's showing up in whatever scenario that you're playing in, Now we have Daisy Walker, someone I love. She's also in the novel I'm reading, Librarian. I know a book so powerful, they can rewrite reality. That's what she says. I'm saying that kind of funny, like that's what she said. It is what she said. She starts in Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey. Daisy worked in the library of the Miskatonic University, overseen by the noted scholar Henry Armitage. She quickly became an expert on the school's collection of strange and occult texts, mastering the obscure subject matter and archaic languages. Through her studies, she came to believe that humanity was facing an impending threat, and Armitage believes in her conclusions and has sent her to Istanbul to continue her investigation. It is their hope to discover some means of rescuing humanity from this inevitable dream. I hope it's not too inevitable, right? Let's see how far along we are. Pretty far along. There's a lot of investigators to choose from, and that's part of the fun. All right, we've got Trish Scarborough, the spy. We lie all the time, but the truth is in there. You just have to know how to decode people. Even when we lie, we can't help but tell the truth. Starts in Central Russia. Trish Scarborough. Everyone expected great things from Trish when she was young. In school, she excelled in athletics and the sciences, but she surprised everyone after graduation by settling into a humble position at a commercial code company. What almost no one knows is that this particular company is a front for the Bureau's code-breaking agency, the Black Chamber. Now she finds herself in the city of Krasnoyarsk, saying that wrong, meeting another agent who has important information about an impending threat from a world beyond our own. Starts in Central Russia. Space 16. Now we've got Zoe Samaras, the chef. She said, "God has spoken. I will do his work without hesitation." So that's interesting because, that's our second religious person. I mean, obviously this person's a chef instead of a nun, but still, it's kind of interesting. But maybe their faith helps them out a little. Excuse me. She starts in Rome, Italy. When Zoe was 6 years old, her parents were killed in a fire. As the flames consumed her home, God spoke to her. He told Zoe that she was special and that he was giving her a special task. As an adult, she now travels from city to city, taking work as a chef to support herself. When she isn't working, she stalks the night, guided by the Lord's voice. Wherever she finds wickedness, she strikes it down without remorse or hesitation. Most recently, God has called her to Rome to dispense his righteous fury. So that's interesting because she's directly hearing the voice of God, which is really, really interesting. And in the Lovecraftian universe, is there really God in the sense that Judeo-Christians would think of, Yahweh? Or is there just the pantheon of Lovecraftian outer gods and great old ones? Or is there both? Or is she hallucinating or hearing something else or someone else? I don't know the answers to these questions. Alright, we've got Lola Hayes, the actress. She says, "I played as so many roles. Madness is to be expected." Okay. She starts in Tokyo, Japan. Around the world, Lola has performed dramatic roles for sold-out houses. However, being cast in the controversial play The King in Yellow, which, side note, is this fictional play that matters so much to a lot of different things, especially the great old one, Hastur. Leela needed to take some time to recover from her exhaustion. That tone means I'm doing air quotes. Now, she has checked herself out of the asylum. She's ready for her big comeback. But this time she'll play a different role in the fight against the horrors that threaten the world. She started traveling to Tokyo to track down the only other surviving cast member of her previous theatrical endeavor. All the other cast members had died. Interesting. Now we got Skids O'Toole, the ex-convict. He says, "I didn't get out of the joint just to watch the world end." straightforward. Starts in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Skids got put away on 2 counts of bank robbery, but he never hurt anybody. His cellmate, Brad Hollins, killed 9 people. Hollins said that an alien creature made him do it. Over the years, Hollins said a lot of strange things about the Ancient Ones. He said that he needed to get to Argentina to stop them. Skids didn't give it much thought until the night Hollins burst into flames. When Skids got parole, he couldn't shake the thought of those Ancient Ones. Something's going on in this world. Something we have to figure out. My favorite character to play, even though I always lose with her. She's hard to play as, but very interesting. Diana Stanley, the redeemed cultist. Not reformed cultist, but redeemed cultist specifically. The lodge is not as innocent as they pretend. I have learned that nothing is ever as it seems, myself included. She starts in Central America, Space 7. When Diana was initiated into the Order of the Silver Twilight, she believed it to be nothing more than a community organization. But as she learned more of its true name, she became convinced that a growing evil threatens the world, and that the Silver Twilight will play a role in that threat. She believes her best chance to prevent this is to use her position to sabotage the organization from within. Carl Sanford, the head of the Order, has recognized her skills and recently sent her to Panama for additional training. So she's like a double agent against the cultists. Very, very interesting. Dexter Drake, the magician. We already have 2 musicians. Dexter Drake is a magician. He says, "Do not be afraid. I have spent my entire life doing the impossible." He starts in Tokyo, Japan. When the Great War ended, Dexter went from being a soldier to a stage magician. His charm and unparalleled skills quickly drew praise from around the world. As he touted the exotic corners of the world he amassed a collection of genuine occult knowledge. Soon Drake became as much of a master of real magic as he is of staged illusions. Eventually, his arcane studies revealed a dark power that is growing in strength. Now in Tokyo, Drake spends his nights performing and his days stopping the end of the world. Min Ti Van, the secretary. She says, "You can depend on me to guide you through the unknown." Lots of occult knowledge there, I bet. She starts in Tokyo, Japan. Fan Ti Min's father came to Seoul from Cochin, China, to use his diplomatic savvy in dealing with foreign business interests. Once grown, Min proved to be just as adept in business. She recorded her name in the style of Westerners and took a job in Tokyo as a secretary to an importer of strange antiquities. More than just an employer, Mr. Thomas was Min's friend, but now he has been murdered. Armed with only the strange text Mr. Thomas left for her and her own keen mind, Min has vowed to find out why. Now we're reading about Mandy Thompson, the researcher. She says, "I will find a way to end this horror. I will not stop searching." Starts in Shanghai, China. Ever since she was a child, Mandy would read when she could not sleep. Such has been the case many nights. Her remarkable memory and ability to correlate facts have made her a highly sought-after researcher around the world. Over time, her work has required her to read strange occult texts. These bizarre tomes have slowly caused her to suspect that an ancient being will arise to destroy humanity. Recently, the scrolls she has been reading in Shanghai have made it clear that the world is in immediate danger. Now we've got Joe Diamond, the private eye. He says, I was hired for a job. Evil gods or no, I aim to finish it. Starts in San Francisco, United States. Joe Diamond. The dame who hired Joe was square, and the job seemed easy on the surface. She paid in advance to have Joe find some codger and deliver a crate, but Joe does not walk into situations without knowing the score. The codger was a member of the Silver Twilight Lodge, and that crate had been stolen from a museum in Istanbul. Like a sucker, Joe went to the cops. First trouble, he got a broken nose and a dead client, and somebody stole his cargo. Now Joe is ready for a little payback. Makes sense to me. Another kind of musician, a little. She looks like she's singing, which is interesting. Too many musicians, possibly. We've got Marie Lambeau, the entertainer. She said, I used to sing as a grand mire. I don't know what that word is, grand mire. I used to sing as a grand mire, made potions and charms. Oh, as grand mire. That's what she called her grandma. Right. She starts in Southeast Asia, Space 20. Marie had come a long way from the Louisiana marshes of her youth. These days, the Smoky Velvet sings the blues in elegant nightclubs around the world. But it was Grand Mire's dying wish that was sent Marie to the kingdom of Sarawak, where an old evil had returned. Marie doesn't believe she can help, but only a fool didn't listen to Grandmere. Now memories of strange nursery rhymes she used to recite have begun flooding back. People called Grandmere a witch. Maybe Grandmere's got some witchcraft in her blood too. Or maybe Marie has some witchcraft in her blood too. Alright, so witch musician looking for answers. Alright, we've got Finn Edwards, the bootlegger. He says, never lose track of the exit or the merchandise. Starts in American Metropolis, Space 5. Kind of a Cleveland-Chicago hybrid, I guess. That space. Finn was making a good living, running liquor from Canada to cities all around along the East Coast. He never got caught and never lost the delivery. Now he has taken a job in Chicago and gave his word that he could get it done. This time, it won't be alcohol he's delivering, and it won't be the local sheriff trying to catch him. Finn's caught up in some supernatural conspiracy, but in the end, he adheres to the same principles. Deliver the goods, don't get caught. Good rules to live by. Deliver the goods, don't get caught. Now we have Lily Chen, the martial artist. She says, I have been preparing to confront this evil for my entire life. My focus must be absolute. She starts in Shanghai, China. Lily speaks rarely, and when she does, her words are measured and wise. After a lifetime of disciplined training, every gesture is graceful, uncluttered by hesitation. When she was an infant, an obscure set of monks believed that she was born for a special purpose, to face a great evil. Now the monks believe that the great evil is at hand, and they have brought Lily to Shanghai to begin fulfilling her destiny. Excuse me. Charlie Kane, the politician. He says, "It can be arranged. It's just a matter of acceptable terms." Starts in San Francisco, United States. When the press asks if Charlie is planning to run for national office, he smiles and says that he's focused on the important issues. The truth is that he would love to launch his campaign, but right now, the most important issue is preventing the end of the world without causing a panic. To do so, he's been calling in favors across the country. Most recently, Charlie stopped in San Francisco to visit Hearst Castle. With the help of his friends and his fiancée, Charlie believes he can fix this problem without sacrificing a single vote. We've got William Yorick, the gravedigger. He says, "Though this be madness, yet there is method, isn't. Though this be madness, yet there is method in it." Oh, in it is apostrophe. Though it be madness, there's method in this madness, basically. He starts in Sydney, Australia. William Yorick always dreamed of becoming an actor, but alas, poor Yorick was not meant to be. As a gravedigger, Yorick saw corpses every day. So when inhuman, monstrous corpses started to turn up in Arkham, he took the bodies to Miskatonic University for study. Unfortunately for Yorick, that drew some unwanted attention. And fearing for his life, he took a grave-digging job in Sydney, far from Arkham and far from trouble, at least until the corpses started crawling their way up from the ground. Creepy. Here we have Vincent Lee, the doctor. He says, "I will find the answers, even if it kills me." After the third or fourth mutilated body showed up during his time at St. Mary's Hospital in Arkham, Vincent Lee began to suspect that this was no simple case of a wild animal attacks. When a young man dies screaming in his sleep from a heart attack, Vincent knows for a fact that dark times were ahead. Taking a leave of absence from his position at the hospital, he has set out to ease the suffering of those afflicted by the spreading chaos, hoping that the trail of bodies will lead him to the answer he craves. Luke Robinson, the dreamer. He says, "The key to the Dreamlands lies within us all." So clearly he's a Dreamlands expansion guy. He starts in a space containing a gate. So basically he starts any space containing a gate. Luke Robinson, through the gift of an unusual puzzle box from his uncle, discovered the entrance to the Dreamlands many years ago, and has since then spent the majority of his days wandering the land of dreams in search of adventure. From the streets of Caliphys to the endless mysteries of the enchanted woods, he wanders, unraveling the secrets of both the land and the myriad dreamers who reside there. Now, an ancient chaos threatens to annihilate not only the waking world, but the world of his dreams as well. Kate Winthrop, the scientist. She says, "Professor Young taught me that everything is simpler than it seems. The connection is there if you look for it." Maybe that's true. Maybe there's always a connection. Starts in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Quiet and resourceful, Kate Winthrop has been obsessed with studying dimensional instability ever since her friend and mentor, Professor Young, was devoured by a beast from another world. Following a peculiar dream and a string of mysterious disappearances, Kate has come to the University of Buenos Aires to continue her research. Now that preliminary testing has been completed on her flux stabilizer, Kate is no longer content to sit idly by. She is determined to seek revenge for the death of her colleague. So people are either looking for answers or revenge, or mostly answers or revenge, but I mean, I don't blame them for that. Then we got Gloria Goldberg, good character. The author. Never underestimate the power of the written word. Starts in Arkham. For most of her life, Gloria has experienced vivid, lifelike dreams of horrifying abominations emerging from the dark places of the universe to destroy humanity. As she became older, she learned to channel those horrible visions into her writing, and is widely lauded for the imaginative and detailed descriptions of the terrors she encounters in her nightmares. Her most recent nightmares ended with the destruction of not only Arkham, but the entire world. If nothing else, it is going to make one hell of a book. Daryl Simmons, the photographer. He says, "The truth is darker than any of us know." Guess sometimes you gotta put the flash on. Starts in Jakarta, Indonesia, Space 20. Daryl Simmons will never forget the night he saw an indescribable horror come from the shadows in his hometown of Arkham. Since that fearful night, the horror of what he saw permeates his every dream. Reduced to capture photographic evidence to prove what he saw, he has detailed his life, his latest of which has brought him to an ancient burial ground in Indonesia. One good shot is all he needs, and there's no way he will let it slip through his fingers. Starts in Jakarta, Indonesia, Space 20. And the last one I have, and again, months from now, years from now, there'll be plenty more characters, but these are some great ones, and all the ones that are available now. The last one is another favorite of mine, Carolyn Fern, the psychologist with great ability. She can heal madness conditions as an action. That's a huge ability. That's great. The mad deserve peace of mind, not death of the spirit. She has compassion even for the mentally ill. That's good. She starts in Rome, Italy. When Carolyn Fern's latest patient, Malachi, told her of his troubled nightmares, she never expected that he would turn up dead the very next day, murdered by the very weapon which was dreamed. A gifted psychologist and skilled in the art of hypnosis, Carolyn has been following clues. Malachi left in his diaries across into 2 continents, convinced that Malachi's death in some way is connected to the growing unrest in the world. She is determined to uncover the truth that lies behind the murder of her former patient. Ooh, that's a lot of characters. That's all of the ones as of now, and again, more will come out. And again, I didn't read their special abilities mostly, or what happens if they go insane or get mortally wounded, or their statistics, or their health and sanity. So they're still, even beyond the theme of them and the art and name, a lot of personalization and how they play and contribute. But I think they're all cool and they're all fun. And when it comes to Eldritch Horror, honestly, I'm just excited for more and more content. I don't need it to be more complex. I think what they added with the big box expansions. You know, the prelude cards, special decks for new sideboards, even special clue finding for at least one sideboard, Mountains of Madness Antarctica. I think all of that was pushing, adding too much variety of types of content, but didn't quite go too far. I think that Eldritch Horror is at its best, like minigames are, but not all, when instead of adding new mechanisms or entire new systems to the game, it just adds existing content and variety, additional content and variety for existing systems and mechanisms, and that's when it's at its best. And that's why I think after they added in all the new stuff for the first big box, the focus tokens, the prelude cards, the unique assets, and the sideboard and sideboard decks, all of that stuff was borderline too much, but it was okay. But then when they kept making more expansions, they just kept building onto those things and the original content type of thing. So yeah, new ancient ones and new investigators and new monsters, but not like a new systems beyond the ones that I just mentioned. So I think that's the right amount of complexity, and they should leave it at that. Just keep adding more stuff, but don't make it more complex. And that's the characters of Eldritch Horror as of March 2017, including the Dreamlands. And more will come, and let me know if you like hearing about that, if you want me to do it in a different way, louder, quieter, closer to microphone, farther, use voice cleanup or sound cleanup, or if you enjoy the white noise. You know, if you want me to talk louder, softer, and what you'd like to hear about next. Board game rules, read in this way, either recording the screen of a PDF of the rules, or recording me reading the physical rules more, or just anything, whatever you'd like to see or hear. Let me know, because I'm really curious, and feel free to like and subscribe. And if you have any constructive feedback or criticism, definitely let me know. I wanna learn, and you know, I'm very much interested in creating content that's comedic or ASMR or just otherwise generally relaxing, or has interesting, you know, voice qualities or voice work, or in particular, if it's built around board games and the stories and themes and even rules and ideas behind the board games, especially my own board game collection, because they're the ones that I love the most. That's why I got them. So that's all. I have to ramble on there. I hope it was something for you, either interesting or informative or relaxing, or if it was none of the above, sorry about that. But yeah, you shouldn't have stayed this long if that's the case. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you.